Hello everybody, hope you're doing okay. Now the NOVABLAST 3, this has been a bit of an odd shoe for me because I first of all got the UK 13 there in the green one and thought it was a pretty horrible shoe. I couldn't really work out what the fuss was about. Some people were saying it's the shoe of the year, if not the best shoe ever. And then I thought, well, okay, maybe it's a bit big for me. Maybe that's the problem. Then I got the UK 12 there, the black and amber one. And I thought, well, okay, it's not too bad, but it's kind of like, yeah, it had sort of certain niche cases. It didn't really feel like it was a fast shoe, maybe a recovery shoe. So what I want to do today is just address some of the issues around the fit that people bring up. Bit of comparisons briefly with the first two versions. Bit of explanation what I think I'm going to be using it for. And also a bit of a chat about the outsole grip, which seems to be a problem with this shoe. Now here I've got the insole I pulled out from the UK 13, the green one there on the right there, and the amber one is the UK 12. So what's interesting with the shoes is that most shoe companies, they obviously have a UK size, a US size, but they also have a centimetre size. If I bring up a screenshot from the Pegasus Turbo, which is an illustration. So for me in the UK 13, which I normally am, it's a 32 centimetre shoe, and my actual feet are 30.2 centimetres. So I've got about 1.8 centimetre there to play with, and basically that centimetre length seems to be the actual length of the insoles. Now ASICS are a bit different with their sizing. If I bring up the two labels here in the 12 and the 13, their centimetre sizes don't seem to correlate at all with the actual size of the shoe. In the UK 13 they quote a centimetre size of 31 centimetres, and in the UK 12 at 13.5. Now these two insoles, the actual green one here in the 13 actually measures 33 centimetres, and the left one in the UK 12 actually measures a centimetre less at 32. So instantly there's a bit of a differential there, because 30.5 to 32 and 31 to 33, instantly there's a difference. Now I've also pulled out the insole from a Pegasus Turbo in the UK 13, this yellow one here, which is a 32 centimetre shoe by Nike, and sure enough this one actually does measure 32 centimetres. Now if I compare this one with the actual UK 12, notionally a size down, then basically these two insoles, if you can see, they basically are pretty much identical in length. They're both effectively 32 centimetre shoes, even though ASICS one is a 12 and the Nike one is a 13. Don't know if you can see that, but just an illustration of what I'm on about there, the actual length of those insoles are 32 centimetres. So I think what's going on is that ASICS sizing is actually slightly different to the other manufacturers. So I think that's why people normally go for their true to size and find that this shoe is actually a bit long, because it actually is long, because certainly in my sizes the actual shoes don't correspond to the other brands. Okay, in say Adidas or New Balance I take a 13.5, but that's still a 32 centimetre shoe. It's still a US 14. So ASICS are just inconsistent. So if you've got NOVABLAST, just take out your insoles, see how long it is, and see if that's actually longer than some of your other shoes. And if you think the NOVABLAST is a bit long for you, that could well be the reason why. Now in terms of the actual ride and the usage, well, for a start, this is a great improvement on the previous two versions in weight. In the UK 13, this one, which is actually slightly big for me, it actually comes in at 300 grams exactly. Oddly though, the UK 12, the actual two shoes measure completely differently. One that is 289 grams and the other is 281. So if I average them out, and that's 285. So basically size up is 15 grams in it. Can't really tell much difference, to be honest, but the 12 is just slightly narrower by about 2mm. So that actually compares very favourably with the previous two versions. The original version here it got in a UK 13 was 340 grams, and that basically had the same issues with the length. I always thought that was a bit long. I didn't really kind of consider that it was a problem. I just got on with it, but it just felt like it was the longest shoe I had. And it's the same when I actually measured the insoles. The first two versions and the three all share the same insoles, basically just as long as each other. So in terms of if you went down a size or stayed with your normal size in the previous NOVABLAST version, I would certainly do the same again. So the NOVABLAST 1 in my size was 340 grams compared to 300 in the NOVABLAST 3, and then the NOVABLAST 2 went to 355 grams. So between the version 2 and the version 3 in my size, it's saved an incredible 55 grams. But the odd thing is, it doesn't actually feel like it's that light a shoe. I think because if you compare it to say a Speed 3, which is only just a bit lighter than this one at 286, that one kind of, as the name suggests, feels like a shoe that actually wants you to get going. But it's also completely happy to go slowly. Whereas this one, I kind of feel like it's a shoe that just wants to be a more recovery shoe. Yes, you can pick up the pace a bit, but it's a bit of a struggle. The foam is kind of fighting that a bit. I find it's not really sort of bouncing me back up the road. Some people may find it does, but I mean, people often say, like, can I race in this shoe? Well, yeah, you can race in anything. Would I choose to race in this shoe? Absolutely not. Would I choose to do a session in this shoe? Well, absolutely not. And this was any shoe available. I mean, I'm sure you could do, but I think if I took this in a marathon, I'd be giving away 15, 20 seconds a mile, just the fact that it's just not a shoe designed for a fast toe off. If anything, when I first got it, I thought it was like a bit bottom heavy. I wondered why that was. I think partly because I didn't have the lockdown across the midfoot right, and I find when I do lock down my midfoot, you can see here that I've had to put in the laces an awful lot, and the actual length of these laces, if I do a double knot, I've still got a load of room to go, so I might have to cut that one off actually. But yeah, it's a kind of a shoe that it sort of feels like it wants to be a shoe to go fast, but for me isn't. So in that sense, once I've really worked out it's a shoe that is for recovery runs and easy runs, I'm actually much happier in it. And now I'm finding that this shoe is perhaps just a fraction long and the 12 is a fraction short, but both are kind of working. So maybe on a hot day I would wear the bigger one, and on a cooler day I could wear the other one. But I think, by and large, I do like to have a bit more room in the front. I always think if you're in doubt, go for the slightly bigger shoe, because your feet will expand, of course, during the course of a run, and it does allow you the option, of course, to wear thicker socks. Having said that, I always wear the same thin Nike socks, so I'm not really one to say. Perhaps that's why I need to wear thicker socks sometimes. But I always like to think I should wear the same socks for every shoe, then I get the same experience. In terms of the outsole grip, well, yeah, it is a bit of a concern. Normally, I don't really care about outsoles. I know people like Ed Bud get very excited about outsoles, and the shoe could be terrible, but if the outsole was okay, then it's almost a shoe that sort of redeems itself. Normally I kind of think, well, if I don't fall over in a shoe, which happens very rarely unless you trip over, then it's no great problem. Having said that, I went through Guildford Town Centre the other night, where it was a bit wet. There was a slightly downhill bit on a sort of like posh sort of paved walkway, and then I came into some cobbles, and I almost felt like I was going to be sliding down this little bit of pavement, so I really almost came to a halt and just virtually sort of tiptoed it down it. On Saturday, just before my run, I thought I'd try these out on a bit of a slightly downhill country lane with quite a slick surface, and it felt like once I was getting going, I could almost slide down this hill in this shoe. When I put on the Adios Pro 3 with the Continental rubber, I could definitely feel, yeah, there was no noticeable difference. So in terms of confidence, I didn't really feel like it was actually when I've been running in it, and I did do my initial runs in wet conditions, but it didn't feel too bad. But having now sort of like actually done this sort of slide test, I'm a bit cautious. So I know there is a trail version of this with deeper lugs, but I'm not sure that this is a shoe that I really want to get for the trails, because I think the problem is coming now into the British winter, that trail's going to be wet and muddy. And I did actually take this shoe out on a little bit of trail on one of its first runs, and the first puddle I got my feet completely soaked, which is partly why I like wearing the Gore-Tex shoes, because on the first puddle you're not going to get your feet completely soaked in a Gore-Tex shoe. You might by about the 20th puddle if you really put your foot right in it, but this one, first puddle completely soaked, that means another 5 miles or whatever I was running completely sodden shoes, and then I'm still trying to take the mud off of it. So a trail shoe, yeah, it might have slightly better grip, but it's not going to save your feet getting wet at all, is it? Okay, so going forwards then, I mean, I'm actually liking this shoe a lot more than I did initially, but very much caveat on what I'm using it for. I kind of expected this shoe to be like a Speed 3 substitute, or even the Pegasus Turbo Next Nature, which everyone dismissed as a shoe that they hated, but I have actually done almost 150 miles in that shoe now. I haven't been wearing it that much recently because I've been trying to test out these Novablast 3s, but in terms of versatility, yeah, I think, well, yes, you could use it for different things, but as I said, I certainly wouldn't choose to other than recovery runs. I think for recovery runs are good, because I think in recovery runs I tend to rock back on my heels a bit more than perhaps I would do running faster. And all this nice foam at the back here brings you a nice sort of cushion ride. And there's quite a lot of foam at the front. I think it's just a standard sort of 8mm drop in these shoes, so it's not really sort of anything that's sort of amazing amount of cushion on the forefoot, but I think the stack is quite high, and I think ASICS's stack heights are a bit different. I think the quoted stacks, which I'll see if I can put up there, seem a lot less than equivalent shoes, but I think they actually measure their stacks slightly differently. I think when I actually measure this one in a more conventional sense, it was more around like the 40mm mark that is kind of the accepted maximum. Although I don't think anyone's going to be looking to sort of invalidate this shoe in a race. I don't think any elites will be using a Novablast 3 in a race, or if they did do, I don't think they'll be doing very well. Anyway, so yeah, is this a shoe that you've got? You're thinking of getting? Do you think it's the best shoe you've ever known? Do you think it's your shoe of the year? It certainly isn't my shoe of the year. I think the shoe of the year for me is always a shoe that I feel I can go fast in. And recovery day shoes are days to be got through and looking forward to the next fast day. So yeah, when I'm looking forward to a fast day, I'm looking forward to put on maybe one of the carbon fiber racers like the Vaporfly, the Endorphin Pro, the Adios Pro 3 as well, even the Alphafly. I'm starting to warm to a bit, the Alphafly 2 that is. But yeah, this one, I think it serves a nice sort of purpose as a general sort of daily trainer, I suppose. A shoe that you know, easy runs up to steady runs, but anything more than that. Tempo runs, yeah, if you caught short and you can use it if you really had nothing else, but I certainly wouldn't choose to pull this one out of my closet, as it were, and go for a fast run out of choice. But you could do, but I just don't think you would get the same response as you would do in a shoe more dedicated for that purpose. So anyway, hope you found this interesting. Like and subscribe on that, and see you next one then. Bye. If I cut now to a bit of a clip of how they are on my feet, you can kind of illustrate how they actually are and how the differences are. Okay, so we've got the UK 12 on the left and the UK 13 on the right, and you can see how much more I've had to put in the laces on the 13. The size 13 is about 2mm wider at the base than the 12 I measured it. So I've also got a incredible amount of excess lace here. I normally would double them up and then fold them underneath here. In fact, I might even have to cut them off. In terms of toe box room, I've got a full thumb width there. And in fact, if anything, that's more like a thumb width and a half. On this one, it's almost a thumb width, I would say. So this shoe is probably almost quite long enough in the 12, and this one is clearly a bit too big lengthwise, but because I've tightened my midfoot down there so well, actually now it doesn't feel too bad.